Pastor Ed here with Daily Devotions for Tuesday, November the 11th, 2023. It's Tuesday, which means it's Generosity Day in terms of daily devotions. We've started this now for several weeks and will continue every Tuesday through the end of the year. Of course, generosity has to do with being generous. Generous has to do with being liberal in giving, being open-handed, not clutching and holding on to things. But the other part of it is that the second half of that definition of being liberal in giving is being marked by abundance or ample proportions. We believe that God is generous and that he provides us with ample blessings with which we can then be generous in turn. Again, I always come back to Abraham and blessed to be a blessing. We are part of that long legacy, that long line of God's people who have been blessed to be a blessing. Well, our reading for today is taken from the Gospel of John, the 12th chapter. 6 days before the Passover, Jesus came to Bethany, the home of Lazarus, whom he had raised from the dead. And there they gave a dinner for him. Martha served, and Lazarus was one of those at the table with him. And Mary took a pound of costly perfume made of pure nard, anointed Jesus' feet, and wiped them with her hair. And the house was filled with the fragrance of the perfume. But Judas Iscariot, one of the disciples, the one who was about to betray him, said, "Why was this perfume not sold for 300 denarii and the money given to the poor?" He said this not because he cared about the poor, but because he was a thief. He kept the common purse and used to steal what was put into it. Jesus said, "Leave her alone. She bought it so that she might keep it for the day of my burial. You always have the poor with you, but you do not always have me." So Lazarus and Mary and Martha, very close family to Jesus, good friends. Lazarus, of course, died, and Jesus brought him back to life, this great miracle of Lazarus come out of the tomb. But Mary and Martha seem to be consistent with the other story we associate with them, when Jesus, as recorded in Luke's gospel, came to visit, and Martha was the Susie homemaker, running around getting everything going on, which she's doing in this passage as well. But in Luke 10, she gets so distracted by all the things she's trying to do to make Jesus feel comfortable and serve him and everything else, she gets frustrated and says, because Mary is just sitting at his feet listening to him. And Jesus said, "Martha, you're worried and distracted by many things. There's need of only one thing. Mary has chosen the better part, which will not be taken away from her." So their roles, their personalities are consistent here in this story as they are in Luke's. But the point here, Curtis Clark wrote a devotional where he asked, "Have you ever been so overwhelmed with gratitude towards someone that you just wanted to lavish all that you had on them?" Of course, Jesus had just brought Lazarus back to life, to his sisters Mary and Martha. When all had seemed hopeless, Jesus had performed this resurrection. Mary, Martha, Lazarus now wanted to express their gratitude, so they prepared a meal. And Mary, for her part, took the family's life savings and poured it on Jesus' feet. The Bible tells us that the perfume they used would have been a year's wages. For an average worker today, that'd be around $53,000, give or take. So Mary took that perfume that would have most likely been bought for a burial, or may have represented their life savings, might have been something that they would have had just to dab a little bit on their head when they were celebrating a festival. And what did she do? She poured all of it on Jesus' feet, not his head, where it would normally go, but his feet. Can you imagine taking your life's savings, or at least at a minimum a year's wage, whatever that would be, and pouring it out on someone's feet? That's what Mary did. Of course, Judas was flabbergasted, and if we're honest, that would probably be our response as well. But Mary understood something that changed her. Everything that she had was only because of Jesus. Without Jesus, a year's wages were nothing. And if Jesus could raise Lazarus from the dead after 3 days, that he could take care of them. Mary and Martha and Lazarus had learned the most important lesson, that Jesus was everything, and it drove them, and it drove her in particular, to be generous. And so Mary challenges us. Do we regard everything we have as nothing compared to the riches of knowing Christ? If we get this, then generosity stops becoming a problem, says Clark. We learn to trust God with everything we have. Our temptation, however, is to put our hope in our jobs, our savings, our abilities, rather than Jesus. And for each of us, that might be something different. Mary Lewis once wrote, when we let go of money, we're letting go of a part of ourselves and part of our security. But this is precisely why it's important to do so. It's the one way to obey Jesus' command to deny ourselves. When we give money, we're releasing a little more of our egocentric selves, a little more of our false security. Giving frees us to care. It produces an air of expectancy as we anticipate what God will lead us to give. It makes life with God an adventure in the world, and that is worth living for and giving for. And a final thought from a fellow by the name of Sherm Nichols. He said, sometime in 1948, my dad sold his Studebaker automobile in order to buy Mom's engagement ring. Go ahead, call it a mistake. But my folks were happily married for 49 years. Do you think Mom would have called Dad's extravagance a waste? Just leave that thought to ponder, and Mary's extravagance in John 12, and what that might mean in our own lives. Well, hope to see you again tomorrow as we are going to, this week following All Saints Sunday, I'm going to be talking about and sharing the stories of some of the most well-known saints in church history. I'm looking forward to that. I hope you are as well. And so we'll see you again tomorrow. Until then, take care. Bye.